Hi, my name is Namagiri Lakshmi, and this is my first task as an intern for the Sparks Foundation. So, the problem statement here is to predict the percentage of a student based on the number of hours he or she studies. So, this is my following approach in order to solve this particular problem. So, here I am mounting my drive and checking the working directory at which my data set is present in order to proceed further. Here, I'm importing the necessary libraries required for my model. So the necessary libraries are NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, and Seaborn, and certain libraries pertaining to linear regression. So that is sklearn.model selection and sklearn.linear model. Here I'm loading my data set that is in a data frame called as scores underscore df. So here I'm visualizing the top 15 elements of my data set. Here, as we can look at the data set, we can conclude that greater the number of study hours, the better the student scores. So here we can see if a student spends around 9.2 hours, he gets a score of around 88. And if a student spends around 2.5 hours, he gets a scores of 21, which is less. So lesser the duration, lesser the score. Here we are checking the shape of our data set. So the shape of our data set is 25, 2. So 25 rows and 2 columns. The 2 columns are nothing but the scores and the hours. So here we are checking about the information of my data set. So we have two types of variables here, float 64 and int 64. So we are also, it's very important to check if our data set has null values or not. So here we can see that there are no null values present in this particular data set. So next comes the correlation part. We are checking if the two variables are having some sort of correlation. So we can see a value of 1 diagonally, so which concludes that they have a very strong correlation. And then comes the visualizations. Based on this particular graph, we can tell that they are linearly dependent on each other. Then splitting the data into train and test set. So x is the independent variable and y is the dependent variable. Here we are checking the x and the y shape, that is the independent variable and the dependent variable shape. And then here we are splitting the model into train set and test set. Train test will be used for training the data and the test set will be used for testing the data. Here we are splitting the data set in the ratio 80:20, where 80% goes for training and 20% is used for the testing. We are checking the shape of the train data. Here we are checking the shape of the test data. So here we are using the linear regression algorithm. So we are looking at the coefficient and the intercept. So we get an accuracy of about 95% on the train data and an accuracy of about 95 again if we round it off on the test data as well. So there is not much difference between the accuracies of the train and the test data here, and 95% is a pretty good accuracy. So this is a visualization for the relationship between the feature and the target, that is the linear relationship. And here comes visualizing the coefficient and the intercept. So here we are evaluating the model, and we can see that there is slight difference between the actual and the predicted values. Here we can see in the visualization what's the difference, so that visuals help us connect better with it. And finally, we have to check what will be the predicted score if a student studies for 9.25 hours a day. So here we can see that because he's spending around 9 hours, his percentage is also pretty good. That is, he's getting around 93.69%, which is really good, as the number of hours he's dedicating. Like basically, the greater the time he dedicates to study, the greater will be the percentage. So final conclusion about this particular data set is it has two columns, hours and scores, and the shape of our data set as well, and there are no null values present in our data set, which is a good thing. And we see the two variables are linearly dependent, so linear regression was a good choice to use in this particular scenario. And thank you very much.